What we're going to focus on in this session is making the most of a master's degree. And what I mean by that is sort of making sure that whether it's students coming in for a master's degree or whether it's staff who are also gaining access to a master's degree through Penn's tuition benefits, what to do with that in order to sort of position yourself for your career next steps. I am Dr. Joseph Barber. I'm the Director of Graduate Career Initiatives here at Penn's Career Services. I oversee the two graduate-focused teams that we have. Now, interestingly, I do not have a master's degree. I went straight from my undergraduate to my PhD. As you can see here, it was quite the transition, quite transformative in the way that it worked. My PhD was on the behavior of domestic chickens, so that's why there are chickens there. But I've often thought, looking back at that experience, that I wish I had taken a master's degree. I wish I had taken that time to do that, because some of the things that I think I would have gained from a master's degree would have been the ones that I've listed here. I am a first-generation graduate student, so the only reason I really took a PhD is because someone told me that I could call myself doctor and that I might get free upgrades to airline tickets. Only one of those things has happened, and it wasn't the airline one. But so I didn't really have a sort of a strategy around what I was doing with graduate school. And the PhD in England sort of jumps you straight into the research for 3 years. So the master's degree would have actually given me a lot of the tools and techniques and knowledge that would have made my PhD a sort of a smoother transition for me. But there are things I would have gained that I think I wasn't even thinking about at the time, sort of the peer advice aspect of it, the ability to broaden my network and make new connections. Networking was definitely a foreign concept to me at that point in time. I had no knowledge of alumni or what that meant or anything to do with that. So I think the master's degree is a really great way of bridging some of these experiences that people have. So as I think about, or as we, as a sort of a group, think about the master's students population at Penn, they are an extremely diverse population of students, right? They choose a master's degree for many different reasons. They want to do lots of different things with their master's degree. And I think, sometimes it feels straightforward. You need to get a master's in social work to be a social worker. You need to get a master's in architecture to move on to the field of architecture, masters in nursing, for example. So sometimes there's a direct connection between the masters and the next step. It's very direct in that way. In other times, students are making choices based on assumptions about what the master's degree can do for them, or they're thinking about the power of an advanced degree and how that's going to help their job prospects. And I also think there are populations that choose a master's degree because they've reached the end of their undergraduate degree and they still don't know. They still don't have a sense of what they want to do or where they want to do it or what sort of version of themselves they want to be when they're doing it from a professional perspective. And none of these are wrong choices, right? Everyone can take a master's degree and they can leverage the benefit of that in different ways. But it does impact the way that we want to support these students. And knowing that as I set up my appointments for a week, if I'm meeting with 10 master's students, they may all be coming from different places and all want different things from their master's degree. And so being very flexible in the type of advice that we give to them is really important. International students coming to the US to get a sort of a foothold in the US so that they can find the types of jobs that they're looking for. That's a common path that we see from many international students who are taking advantage of that. And sometimes it's not about the specific master's program in terms of the topic area. Sometimes it's just having the master's degree from a US institution like Penn and leveraging that for their career next steps. There are also lifelong learners, people who are always looking to gain insight into the way the world works around them. And perhaps a good example of that is the new chair of the University Board of Trustees, Ramanan here, who has 3 degrees from Penn, including a Master of Liberal Arts from LPS, which is amazing. And then, if I go to his LinkedIn profile, I can see that he's getting one more master's degree on top of the one that he has from Penn at Stanford. And so talk about a lifelong learner, someone who's really excited about just having access to information, being able to absorb it, being able to see the world through different perspectives and through different lenses. Obviously, Ramanan is not our typical master student who comes to the Career Services Office. But again, it's just illustrative, I think, of the way that population of master students is so diverse. So coming back to this slide then, right? So you as staff members, many of you may be taking advantage of tuition benefits to get a master's degree. And sometimes that's because you don't want that benefit to go to waste and you want to do that. Sometimes it's because you want that master's degree to give you a sort of a foot up, a leg up to the next role that you're seeking, whether that's at Penn or beyond. And these are all fantastic ways of leveraging that tuition benefit and the master's degree at Penn. I think we can break down this group or there's different perspectives of these master students into a few categories here. And these are obviously just my categories. These aren't sort of established ones. There are students who want to just explore different options, different degrees, different fields. Sometimes they take very individualized approaches to the degrees that they're getting, choosing the topics that interest them. There are people who are making a direct switch. I was a thing, but now I want to work in tech. So I want a master's in computer science so I can get into that industry and get into that field. So they're making a very sort of strategic, tactical choice in terms of the programs that they're choosing. There are people sometimes who have jobs, people who are in roles right now, but they want better roles. They want manager roles or senior roles, and they want to take advantage of what an advanced degree can have. So they're looking for better job prospects. There are the professions that we talked about, nursing, social work, architecture, things like that, where there's a very direct connection between the degree and the next step. And then there are those who are just not sure. And I think, again, this category probably includes a lot of first-generation graduate students who have heard about the concept of advanced degrees and how they can be beneficial, but they are sort of looking for, they're not quite sure what it's going to do for them or how it's going to do it or where it's going to take them moving forward. And so these are all different categories that probably have a shared goal in common, right? And that goal is they are investing time, they're investing money, they're investing emotional capital on this process of advancing themselves. And so they're all looking on a good return on investment on this time and money for the degree. They all want it to help translate their career prospects into something positive, into something that they're looking for. And that becomes critical then in terms of the way that we serve these students, making sure that we understand that they're looking for this return on investment and being able to support them in different ways to be able to do that. So let's talk a little bit about some of the challenges then of being in a master's program. Again, some of these are specific to, or not necessarily specific to Penn, but include Penn as part of the challenging environment. So especially for the really quick master's programs, the one-year programs, students come into these things and they're immediately being faced with looking for jobs, right? So even though they're 12 months out, there are lots of things happening on campus that mean that they have to switch from being a master's student, just starting as a master's student, to being someone who's really focusing on their career next steps. And one of the reasons is at Career Services, two of the biggest career fairs that we put on in the autumn happen days after the semester started, the 6th of September for the Career Link, the engineering career fairs in early September as well. And so even though that some of these employers are looking for interns for the next year, there will be a sort of a grouping of employers that want to engage with students who may be looking for full-time roles in the summer in the next year beyond this. So for students who have just started, whether that's a one-year program or even a two-year program, they are immediately faced with the challenge of doing lots of things early on in the semester when they've just arrived at Penn and they're trying to acclimatize themselves to that sort of situation. So these are just a list of some of those things that they have to start doing. They have to update their resume. They have to actually mention that they're at Penn. We often see students who've just arrived who come with resumes that don't even include that they're at Penn right now, because they literally just took the resume that they applied for the master's program and they bring it with them. They have to find an appointment at our office if we serve them, but it's them and every other student that wants to engage with us at that point in time. So they're looking for insight, but they are sort of competing, as it were, with lots of other students looking for appointments that we have. The platforms that we use, Handshake, where we engage with students, helps them set up appointments with us and so that they can see all the information about the career fairs. They have to learn these things. They have to make sure that they're up to date on those. And then they have to think about their own narrative, right? You've just arrived at Penn. What is it that you're going to say to an employer to make them interested in you? Because there's not a lot of Penn about you and you've been there for a week. And so all of these things are challenges. All of these things are things that students have to engage with whilst also looking for employment and doing their classwork and sort of acclimatizing to the whole experience. In many cases, the master's degree is a very intense process, right? There's a lot crammed into a short period of time, a lot of classwork. There's not actually a lot of time outside of classes sometimes to do professional development or career development. For some students, they are sort of balancing their schoolwork with their jobs that they have, with their families that they have. And so there's a lot going on that in many cases, some undergraduate populations don't have to deal with in the same way, but again, crammed into 1 to 2 to 3 years of a master's program. For international students coming to the US, there are slight differences in the way that the sort of education works or the expectations around services for these students. And so there's sort of a cultural process of sort of adapting to the Penn environment and to the hiring process in the US. And that takes time and energy too. Students who are coming in know that they need to find an internship if they are going to be here for more than 1 year. Students who are here for 1 year know that they need to find a role, right? And so this recruiting mindset is right upfront for them. Funding is less about funding for the degree itself. That can be a costly aspect there, but it's about funding for some of the opportunities that they might be looking for summer opportunities coming in the next year. It's really hard sometimes to find funding for an unpaid or underpaid internships, but for some master students, they need to have these as part of their program. For other master students, they need to have an internship because if they've switched from one field to another or from one academic discipline to another as part of their master's degree, they need that internship to sort of make their resume come to life and help them create this new narrative about what they're going to bring to the employer having done that master's program. So the internships help the master's experience make sense to future employers. And so getting those internships can be really important. Now, fortunately, we have partnered with GAPSA, who were able to provide us with some funds to support unfunded internships for graduate students. So we have a process, starts in about March or April each year, where we have students who are applying or have received offers for unfunded internships to receive funding from us. It's a small pot of money, but it does help an awful lot for students who wouldn't be able to take those unfunded internships if they didn't have other resources that are out there. So obviously we are always looking to grow that fund to be able to support more and more students, but it's a great resource for you to be able to know about as the sort of that time of year rolls around for spring next year. And if you want to look at sort of the impact that funding has, we have a blog on our website where we have students who've received funding from us talk about their experience. The Summer Funding blog allows us to share the stories of these students and how these internships have been really impactful. So a really great way to sort of see the value of this funding, but also to see the enormous range of things that students are doing with their degrees, with their master's degrees out there in the world. So those are some of the challenges that master's students face. There's also important to sort of reflect on the immense power of the master's degree as students are trying to position themselves for career next steps. I'm going to give you an example in just a second of some of the experiences that I see in resumes of master's students and how they are directly relevant to roles that they're going to be applying to, and how they really demonstrate a maturity of skills and experience and knowledge that are going to be important as students are looking for roles. It's really hard to get an exact number of master's students at Penn for some reason, but there's about 12 to 14,000 master's students. And so that's a wonderful sort of population of peers at Penn that students can engage with. And obviously the alumni beyond that is sort of vast, right? The alumni network of former master's students who've now graduated is vast. And so students can really take advantage of that. I think when master students or graduate students generally are networking, they are asking, smart questions. They're engaging with alumni in smart ways. And so that maturity that comes with just having a little bit more experience in the world is really helpful when they are reaching out to people and having these conversations, these informational interviews, so that they can learn more about different career paths that are out there. So reminding master students that they can do this. It's a really great tool to be able to start these conversations. And of course, at Penn, there are graduate student clubs, the Penn Graduate Consulting Club, PBG Healthcare Consulting as two of the common consulting clubs that students can take advantage of. These are all things that are resumeable in different ways that students can talk about in their resumes, in their cover letters, in their interviews that are really going to be important for them. So here's an example, right? So in a resume for a master's student, the thing that obviously every student will do is they'll have an education section and they'll say, this is the degree that I'm getting. I'm getting a Master of Science in Organizational Dynamics, and then they'll list some relevant courses. This is really great. It's obviously an important part of the resume. Those relevant courses provide great keywords for an employer to look at. But if I think only about the relevant courses and I think about the student, what I picture in my head is a student sitting in a room and someone talking at them, right? So it's a very passive experience in my head if I just think about the courses. They're great keywords to mention in a resume, but they don't show the dynamic sort of skills, experiences, and knowledge that students have. So what we recommend for master's students is to put the master's degree as part of the relevant experience as well. The degree that you get, that stays the same in the education, but in the relevant experience, you can be a master's student at Penn. And these bullet points here just represent some of the different ways that students talk about themselves. This isn't one student doing one thing, it's just 3 different students' bullet points that I pulled from their resumes. And the reason I share this is because each of these are really powerful bullet points, right? These are things that students have done in their classes, in their capstone research, things that they've done with other students as part of their master's experience. And each of these can be written in a way that would be very dynamically linked to jobs that they are interested in. So a really wonderful way of helping them see the value of the master's degree is to make sure that it is featured as part of that relevant experience. So it doesn't just have to be work experience. It doesn't just have to be jobs that you've done. It can also be the things that you've studied and the way that you studied them. And these are all skills. These are all dynamic skills that change my image in my head of that student. They're no longer sitting in a class and having someone talk at them. They're doing exciting things as part of that master's student experience. Let's talk about some Penn-specific challenges then for master's students. So, Penn is a complex place, decentralized, lots of different things happening, lots of different school-based elements there. At Career Services, we're a centralized office, but we don't necessarily serve all master's students at the same level. So we offer a one-on-one advising to many populations, but we don't offer one-on-one advising, for example, to online master's students. There are some populations of master's students that have their own career advisors that they can access through their own school or their own program. The landscape can be complicated for a student trying to navigate, well, where do I get the advice I'm looking for? Where do I go? Now, what we do offer at Career Services obviously are the broad range of online tools and platforms that are going to be helpful. And that's why we're going to talk about Beyond Graduate School in just a second. Because there are school-based differences in resources and experiences, students who talk to each other across the different programs, again, oftentimes get somewhat confused about what they can access and what they can't access, what they can do and can't do, everything from how different academic programs allow international students to use their CPT, their curricular practical training, can differ between schools, right? And so in an ideal world, trying to sort of make things very equitable in terms of what resources available would be great. And then because many of our master students are extremely heavily programmed during the day, some of them have practicums that they have to go to and be out there in the world doing these things. When we offer our advising appointments between 9 and 5 or 8 and 5, this is not a time that works for everyone, especially if you also have a family on top of your academic responsibilities. So we know that, when we offer advising, there's a population of students who may not be able to access that one-on-one advising. And so it's important, obviously, then that we have resources that can support those students. I don't like to just talk about challenges. I like to talk about solutions to challenges. So let's talk about a few of the things that we have, including then the Beyond Graduate School platform. My colleague Diane Hull is doing a great job leading our Master's Peer Career Advisors initiative through our office. We've hired, this is for our last year's PCAs, we hired 3 Master's PCAs, trained them on resume and cover letter reviews, and then allowed them to meet with, and encouraged them to meet with, obviously, Master's students who are seeking their advice. And these students did a wonderful job of meeting the needs of students who wanted a quick resume review before a career fair, wanted to get an update to an application that they were making that they needed to get out there really soon. So we had hundreds of appointments between our peer career advisors and students that are out there. We've hired 3 new ones for the upcoming year, master students from SB2, GSE, and Cs. So we're excited to continue that initiative. And I think some of these students also offered advising times beyond the 9 to 5 window that we typically used. On our Penn Career Services YouTube channel, we have 128 videos specifically for graduate students and postdocs, covering a lot of the topics that are going to be important for the master students population as well. So we love to point students towards this because it's an on-demand set of resources that they can access. And then we have, on our Career Services website, a community, a master's community. You'll see at the bottom of this drop-down where it says, who are you? Career champions. So if you haven't gone to that part of the website yet, you should, because that's for you. But for master students, they can click on the master students link here. And when they get to the landing page here, one of the first tools that we throw up here is the Beyond Graduate School platform. And that's purposefully, obviously, because it's such a great platform specific to the experience of master students. So it's a wonderful opportunity for graduate students to find on-demand information that they're looking for. As a sort of a general description of what it is, it's an on-demand e-learning program for master students, helping them through the entire process of the professional and career development as they're going through their master's program. It's self-paced, it's structured with online workbooks and sort of step-by-step processes. And as well, I'll show you in just a second, there are lots of different elements that are going to help each of those populations that we talked about earlier, the explorers, people making a career switch, people who don't know quite what they're doing with their master's program. There's a little bit of everything for this platform. It's also something that you can use as a staff member who's getting a master's degree, because all the information that you're going to find in this platform will be just as relevant to your experience as well. So if they follow that link from the master's program, they're going to get to the sign-in page, single sign-on here. So they'll select University of Pennsylvania from the drop-down here, and then they're in. Right? It's all you need to do. I'm going to walk through the different sort of aspects of the website now. We're going to start on this homepage with a couple of the sort of things that pop up straight away. And the first thing is this, what do you need to do to move forward in your job search? What the developers of this platform have been very savvy about is realizing that master students want answers quickly to some of the questions that they have, right? They don't want to go through a 3-hour course to figure out, find the answer to that they're looking for in terms of their job search. And so a lot of the information that they provide is very upfront information. So what am I looking for? I'm looking for information on interviewing because I have an interview, right? And you get taken to that resource. For the PhD version of this platform, we have another platform called the PhD Career Training Platform. It's a much more structured process because PhDs have usually a longer period of time in order to engage in that. Master students, they want things quickly, right? And so this is how this platform is set up. International students, job search in the US, that's one I'll call out because a lot of master students are international students. And so making sure that they are familiar with this platform and using it to its full extent is going to be really, really important. Then we have further down that page, some of our most popular sessions, right? So these are the workshops and recordings that students have accessed the most. It's unsurprising that people click on the one that says, do I really have to network? Because deep down, they want the answer to be no, you don't have to network. But the answer is always yes, as they mentioned here, right? So this is what's on people's mind, right? They are applying to lots of things, but they're not hearing back. They don't know how to position themselves for the jobs that they're applying to. How do I talk about my experience in the resume? And we keep telling them to network, and they keep knowing and reading about networking is important, but for many people, they haven't done that a lot, or don't know how to do that, or don't know where to start with that, right? So these are good examples of the types of questions that we get from master's students. The next section on the top menu here from that homepage is the job search strategy. So this is a slightly deeper dive into some of the topics that are going to be relevant to students as they are thinking about their career next steps. How will my degree help me land a job, right? Sometimes we find that students, they take on a master's degree and they don't know how it's going to help them, but they know it should help them. So all of these are very much statements that we see from graduate students that resonate with what they're thinking about in terms of their next steps. And again, because master students don't have a lot of time, each of these is short, right? 15 minutes or less as a great way to get up to speed quickly on the things that they need to do. Like, these aren't hour-long sessions. These are very short to the point because that's what master students are looking for in most cases. However, there are deeper dives, right? Opportunities to gain more depth and knowledge about some of the topics that are out there. So if you click the deeper dives, you'll see that there are different categories here that have multiple sessions that sort of look at the same topic from slightly different perspectives. I think a good one to sort of focus on here is sort of the academic skills. This is going to be especially important for first-generation graduate students who are moving from an undergraduate to a master's program, because there is a big difference in sort of how graduate students need to operate and how much independence that they have and how much they have to do without being told what to do. This is also going to be important for international students adapting to the US sort of style of education as they are engaging with their program. So if you click on the academic skills, you'll see here that there's a whole wide range of topics on the right-hand side here that sort of go into sort of slightly deeper, take a slightly deeper look at these topics. If we expand on that, We can see, especially for any colleagues here from Weingarten, these are some of the topics that you may talk about when engaging with students. And so this is another great tool that you can refer students to think about how they are managing their experience. Again, for people who are starting in a one-year program, they may be sort of immediately jumping into the career-focused elements. For people in 2 to 3 year master's programs, really understanding how to take advantage of the master's experience is going to be helpful. So saying, there are different ways that students can actually engage with the platform. So in this bottom right-hand corner of every screen, you'll see a Take Notes button. If you press on that, that allows students to take real-time notes about what they're seeing from the videos, from the information that they're reading. This can be saved as a Word document. This can be printed. So I think this really speaks to the different ways that students learn and engage in information that's out there. So, allowing them to sort of absorb the information in their own way. There's videos that they can watch, there's workbooks they can go through, there's stuff that they can write down. Helping that information stick, I think, is so critically important. I mentioned workbooks. Every activity, every topic usually is situated within a workbook. And a workbook basically is a structured document that allows students to sort of not only get a sense of the information that's being covered in the videos, but then reflect on that information and really sort of think about how they can leverage it, right? So this is the workbook, downloadable PDF that students can use as part of those academic skills. And you can see, there's 37 plus pages of information that include a lot of activities that students can think about, right? Self-reflection activities, things that are harder for us to do in, a real-time appointment when we may only have a 30-minute session working with students on their interviewing or their resumes. These are things that they can take a little bit more time on as they reflect on the different ways that they are trying to, absorb the information. So, the workbooks, I think, are one of the most important part of this platform because it provides a structure to a process that feels very intangible sometimes. If a student lands on our website, we have so much information on the Career Services website, it's hard to actually know where to start, right? What page do I go to first? What do I need to do? The workbook for students who like a process walks them through step by step and connects with the video resources on the platform and allows them then to feel much more in control of that process. And so if you ever get the opportunity to look at the workbooks or go through them, that's great. If you ever get the opportunity to, to use some of the exercises in the workbooks as you're working with master's students, that's great. But definitely pointing students towards these workbooks is a great way of bringing them down to ground and making it feel a little bit more structured in the way that they're doing that. One of, I think, the most interesting and important aspects of this platform is the Career Video Library. Again, this has its own workbook that students can leverage as part of this experience. But this Career Video Library is basically 152 interviews with master students from different institutions who are out there in the world doing things, right? So they've all graduated and they have different backgrounds and they have different roles. And these are 152 networking conversations that a student doesn't have to have because they've already been done, right? They're videos of a conversation with this master's graduates, learning about their career field, learning about how they leverage their background to get their role. And so for anyone who's a little bit sort of skeptical about networking, how do I get involved? What types of questions do I have? These are a great sort of gateway to actual networking, right? You're a fly on the wall on someone else's networking conversation, and students can learn what questions to ask, how to ask them, what to take away, and then they can leverage that workbook to sort of reflect on some of these experiences. So you can see that you can break down that 152 interviews by the degrees that they studied or the fields that they studied and the career fields that they're in right now. And remember, there doesn't have to be a direct match between those two things. And so that's part of the exploration that students can actually make. So for you in the field of higher education, joining us today, these are 8 interviews with people also in the field of higher education that you can sort of learn about, different fields that you may not have touched on yet. So Roger here is the manager of workforce and community partnerships. And so if that were a role that interests you for your future next steps, listening to this conversation may be just the starting point for your networking and exploration. And as you've listened to that interview, these are some of the reflection questions that are going to be prompted, from that platform, from the workbook to help you process it. Because what you don't want to do, obviously, is listen to these conversations and just have the content evaporate, right? That sounded interesting, but what do I do with it? These reflection questions help ground that information so that you can turn it into actionable next steps, which I think is really critical as you're trying to take advantage of networking. If networking stays in your head, it becomes sort of overwhelming in terms of trying to piece together all the different parts of the puzzle. You begin to write it down, it becomes much more manageable. If you have a degree in education, so many of you may be getting a master's degree from GSE, for example, these career fields here are the ones that people with education master's degrees have gone into, right? So across the broad spectrum of career fields, you will find people in these different career fields. So again, demonstrating the diversity of career paths that come from a master's in education in this case. What do we point students to a lot when we focus on this platform? Well, many students are interested in the world of consulting, right? So they want, the master's program that they take is part of their goal to get into that, or they didn't know about consulting until they came to Penn and now they want to be a consultant. So these are 14 conversations with people from a diverse range of academic disciplines who are now in consulting. And again, consulting is a diverse range of sort of organizations or focus areas. But it's a really great resource because this gets people started. It gives them the information that they need to sort of really process their understanding of this career field, what they need to learn more about, and how to have conversations with other Penn alumni who are out there who can help fill in some of those gaps. The last topic from the homepage here was the events tab. So in addition to the on-demand sort of recorded workshops, the Beyond Graduate School also has live events that students can sign up for. So there are 3 ones here in June, September, and October. The first one here is of interest because this is a new initiative that they've taken to sort of get the platform out to master students before they even sort of set foot on the campus itself. So this is a sort of a set of programming that will be helpful for students who are just about to start a master's program, who then might be able to, when they do start, feel less overwhelmed by what's going on around them. So breaking this one open, you can see that there's a whole range of topics: how to network, what information interviews are, how to unlock the hidden job market, how to stand out as a job candidate, right? These are all things that can be helpful for an incoming master's student. Now, this is positioned in the end of June, and I think for many Penn students, they may have, at this point in time, already access to their Penn cards and may be able to access some of the online resources. So my colleague Dan will be sharing a little bit with programs of information about this bootcamp so that it can be shared with incoming master students who hopefully have access to this resource. So we want to make sure that if they do have Penn cards, they can access it. We're also looking for ways to make sure that they can access it even if they don't have Penn card access yet. But getting this into students' hands as they are coming to Penn, before they arrive at Penn, getting this whole platform into their hands would be a really great thing, because before they start, they have time to reflect on some of the content much more effectively. This was some of the data that was shared with us by the owners of this platform in terms of our student engagement with this. So if we say that there were about 12,000 master students, we have about 10%, I think, of our students are using this platform. We'd love for that number to be much higher. We'd love for the majority of master students to be accessing this platform at some point. So maybe that's something that you can help support as you're engaging with the populations that you work with, pointing them towards this platform that's out there. You can see the different disciplines that are using it from a Penn perspective. So we're very excited to continue to build usage of this platform over time. We heard back at the end of the usage report, they said that your team is doing a phenomenal job. And when they say your team, they're actually talking about the whole Penn campus, right? So anytime that any of us can point students towards this platform, then we are all contributing to the fact that master students have access to this resource. They said we're doing phenomenal. Obviously, they haven't quite got the branding right there. I think it should be phenomenal, if that's a word. Anyway, okay, as we approach the end of our time, I've talked about some of the broad resources out there, but let me focus on just a few for you, since you stuck around here, and I appreciate you doing so. But here are some of the things that from that platform that you might want to be using, for your own professional and career development. So the first one is this session on maintaining and growing your network through your job search. If you have a role at Penn, which I imagine that you do, you're not necessarily on the job search, but we're all technically on a job search of some sort, whether that job is a promotion, whether that job is a more senior managerial role. And so thinking about networking is something that we all do all the time, I think is really important. So just as a reminder to you all that, the best time to network is when you have a job. Because when you're looking for a job, you can leverage the connections that you've made and those professional relationships that you've built. So thinking about networking is something that we do all the time, I think is really helpful. how to write a resume. Everyone needs to be able to articulate the value that they can bring and think about the roles, your role right now, the work that you're doing, and make sure that you're articulating the skills, the knowledge, and the experience in dynamic ways. And so if you haven't written a resume in a while, this is a great session video to watch just to sort of get you up to speed on what you can do with that. People have a lot more trouble with cover letters. And we heard in the previous session how important cover letters can be. So I sort of flagged there that they have a section or a session on cover letters as well, just so that you can feel confident with that. And then interviewing, right? Interviewing is about advocating for the skills and the value that you bring. And so being able to talk confidently about what it is that you can bring to a role and how that can be impactful, that's going to be really important as well. And then hopefully you get a job offer, whenever that's going to be in your future, you'll want to negotiate that. So the how to negotiate a job offer is another resource that you can take advantage of as part of this particular deep dive. So 3 videos for you that you can be using, even if you're not on the job search, even if you are sort of not looking for the next opportunity, because by sort of dropping in and taking a look at those, you will feel very confident in sharing that information with the populations that you serve, but also positioning yourself for your career next steps as well. In terms of next steps, if you can get this in the hands of incoming master students, if you have control, if you're a part of a master program, that's fantastic. If you can talk about this in orientations as a resource for master students, that's great. If you can take some of the exercises from the workbooks and sort of leverage those so that there's continuity between the online platforms and our in-person events, that's wonderful. And especially if you can build confidence in first-generation graduate students, the introverts of the world who don't necessarily want to jump into networking, but know it's so important and are looking for guidance on that, by sharing with them that interview library, that's a wonderful way of empowering people to feel confident about building relationships with people during their master's experience. So just a few things that you can all be doing in addition to using the resource for yourself. But you're always welcome to connect with us to ask about this platform, to learn how we use it, to learn how you can help other students do that as well.